Sound and Resonance in Ancient Egypt with Sebastian Lonberg, Part 2. You are listening to Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons and monsters and serpents. This is Brothers of the Serpent podcast, and we are coming to you not live, but with video from the 10x10x10 tangent cube of science. And we are nestled amongst the dusty bones of an ancient seabed high atop the Edwards Plateau. So we are joined again this week by Sebastian. We had him on last week to talk, in overview about the acoustics and resonances that we discovered in Egypt. And we're having him back this week so we can dive more deeply into some of the recordings that him and Kyle got in various chambers, in some of the boxes in the Serapeum. So, Sebastian, thanks for coming back, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's fun.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like you're in your. Is this the same place you were in last time, or is this a different studio?
Yeah, this is the same place I was in last time, but
okay.
I pimped it a little bit because it's Christmas, and I wanted some color here.
Wait, are you wearing an Egyptian scarf?
He's wearing a scarf.
I am. I have an Egyptian scarf, and actually, not to brag, but this textile in the background is from Ollantaytambo.
Nice.
So
nice.
Very cool.
I snagged that one there.
Nice. Yeah, so we are recording video for this episode because hopefully we're going to get into some...
It might happen.
Yeah,
we might
maybe.
actually do some video.
They've got some video and photos and some other interesting gadgets and tools that hopefully, again, I'm planning on sitting this one out, guys.
This time we took an entire week to not do show prep, and I started right before the show. So we're a lot more ready. I don't know how much show prep you did, but
it's called deadline magic.
That's right.
If you wait till the last minute, it only takes 1 minute.
That's right.
Diamonds are formed under pressure.
Yes, they are. All right. Great.
That's a good one. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah.
All right, you want to do some Space Weather News?
Yes, sir.
Where is it at?
My button's not working.
Uh-oh. Why is it not working?
There we go.
Still not working?
Son of a bitch. Yeah, go.
Okay. From spaceweather.com, this is Space Weather News. The Geminid meteor shower is underway. Earth has entered a stream of debris from rock comet 3200 Phaeton. I think it's Phaeton, source of the annual Geminid meteor shower. Last night, December 12th through 13th, NASA cameras recorded 46 Geminid fireballs over the U.S., and many more are coming. Forecasters expect the shower to peak on the 13th and 14th, with as many as 100 meteors per hour visible from dark sky sites. Also, Comet Leonard, or C/2021A1, passed by Earth only 35 million kilometers away, making it the brightest comet of the year. So a lot of people got good photographs, but I think it was barely visible with the naked eye. So people were taking photographs with zoom lenses and stuff, and they got some really good ones. So you can go to spaceweather.com to check those out. There's some pretty good photos on there. Current conditions, solar wind speed is 300.3 kilometers per second, and the density is high, 15.4 protons per cubic centimeter. Sunspot number is 12. Let's see, the neutron
That's
count.
going down. So the sunspot number went down, and the density went up.
Yeah, it did. Neutron count is 8.2% above the space age average. And the KP index right now is 0, which is extremely quiet. The 24-hour max was 3, which is the upper end of quiet. So there you go. Space for the news with no Space for the News music.
Hey, well, it's going to be in there.
Oh, you're going to stick it in there in post? Fine.
It's going to be in there, bro.
I've lost all the pizzazz.
Nice.
So you got any emails?
I got one comment that I'm going to read from the website. We do have emails, but they're all enormously long books. So, because we have a guest, I won't be reading any of those on this show. So, just for people listening, if you send us emails, it's great. But if they're extremely long, I mostly have to wait for a listener communications episode to read them, because one email can take up the entire first segment, which is the segment where we do emails. And I usually try not to do more than 15 minutes of emails. So if you write a book, go back and edit it down and make it like a, Cliff Notes version of the book. And that means I can read them on the show without having to wait for a communications episode. But yeah, some of these emails are really great, but they're just too long. So,
okay.
Got one here. This is
keep
a comment.
Keep it short,
yeah,
people.
Keep it short. I got one here from, and this is a comment on episode 222, which is the episode we did with Sebastian last week. He said it's from Matt, and he says, I think the concept of the pyramid being some type of resonator is the most plausible of the alternative theories that I've come across. If you did have something that massive resonating like that, wouldn't liquefaction occur? If I'm using that term properly, I mean the process where vibration, like earthquakes, can cause dry land to saturate with the water contained in the earth below. I wonder if that would have been by design. In a benevolent way, maybe it turned arid land into oases until it stopped and reverted to desert.
Oh, dude.
Or if nefarious, maybe it's the machine that brought forth the great flood. The Bible refers to the doors opening that brought forth the waters from the deep.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
I was just thinking, you get that pyramid going, and the subterranean chamber shaft is like connected to maybe an artesian well, and the water just comes up, and then it goes up the ascending passageway and just pours out of the side of the pyramid. And it's like, they encase that part in granite.
Wow.
So it's just like pouring down the wall. Oh, that'd be freaking sweet.
Is that from the chevrons there, from the main entrance?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have come from the main entrance. Yeah. Man, That's a really cool idea.
Wow. Sweet.
Yeah.
And it was a water fountain.
Yeah.
Folks.
Would it cause liquefaction in that area? I don't know. I mean, liquefaction usually happens on
sandy loam.
Yeah, loam. And so the pyramid is built directly on the bedrock. So the sand around that area, I mean, it's on a plateau. So the plateau is an uplift of rock. So I don't think that would liquefy, even if it was being, vibrated by the pyramid. So, but maybe the surrounding area, I don't know. But still, it's a cool idea. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, buddy. All right, I got a couple of stories. And I have to admit that this is a lot of physics stuff. And, well, some of it was just difficult to understand. So I'm just going to read this anyway because I want to get Sebastian's reaction. But this one is, both of these are from phys.org. And the headline here is Physicists Discover Special Transverse Sound Wave. So it says the physics textbooks tell us there are two kinds of waves. In transverse waves like light, the vibrations are perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation. In longitudinal waves like sound, the vibrations are parallel to the direction of wave propagation. But the latest discovery by scientists from CityU changes this understanding of sound waves. If you speak to a physicist about airborne transverse sound, he or she would think you are a layman without training in university physics because textbooks say that airborne sound, i.e. sound propagating in the air, is a longitudinal wave. While the airborne sound is a longitudinal wave in usual cases, we demonstrated for the first time that it can be a transverse wave under certain conditions. And we investigated its spin-orbit interactions, which is an important property that only exists in transverse waves, i.e. the coupling between two types of angular momentum. The finding provides new degrees of freedom for sound manipulations. The absence of shear force in the air or fluids is the reason why sound is a longitudinal wave. This hadn't been... the team had been exploring whether it is possible to realize transverse sound, which requires shear force. And then they conceived the idea that synthetic shear force may arise if the air is discretized into meta-atoms.
Okay, wait a minute. For those of us who have no idea what's going on,
This is what I'm talking about.
What's the difference between a longitudinal and a transverse?
So, a longitudinal wave, I always get them mixed up, but I think the longitudinal wave is like on water, right? Or is that the transverse?
So like a transversal wave is where the waves are kind of 90 degrees
to the direction of the propagation.
To the direction of the
So
the
waves on
propagation.
top of water, right? They're going up and down, but the direction of the travel of the wave is this way, but the waves are going up and down.
Okay. So that's a transverse?
That's transverse. I'm confused. See, that's what I'm saying. I always get them mixed up.
Did I just hear a cow? Was that a cow?
No, that sorry, that was my phone. That was like Chewbacca.
Oh, okay, it was
it's
Chewbacca.
My text.
No, that's longitudinal, right? No, that's transverse. Okay, transverse is where the wave is going. The
Okay,
vibration is going up and down, but the direction of travel is like, say, left to right. And longitudinal waves, you have your direction of travel, but the vibration is also forward and backward in that direction.
Okay, yes. I see the watchers
So
posting up
it's
here,
like
too.
with sound, you're having a displacement effect. So you have something pushes out, like the front of your speaker pushes out, and it compresses the air in front of it, and then that air is like pushed away or is displaced in front of it again, and that creates a vacuum behind it because it's acting like a spring.
Yeah, okay.
And they always overflex, right? A spring always goes too far,
and
then comes back,
swings
and
back, yeah.
swings back too far. So that's what's happening with the sound wave propagation is that pressure wave is being sprung away from itself, but then it goes too far and forms a vacuum.
Right.
So you can see diagrams of this online where they use like a point cloud, almost like a bunch of dots, and you'll see where the dots are getting close together, and then they spread apart, and then they're close together. But it looks like these
Close together
the
dots
clusters of close together are moving from one side to the other. But if you look at an individual dot, it's just going
are moving back and forth.
left and right as the wave is traveling to the right
Okay.
or something.
Okay, so longitudinal means that the compression and rarefaction or whatever is in the same direction as the travel
As
of the
the
wave.
travel of the waves.
And
Transverse
is it's perpendicular.
Yeah, so you know the diagrams of light where they're showing like it's like this happening,
Yeah.
right? It's this up and
It's
down,
going up and down,
oscillation.
but the direction
while
of travel is to the right or something.
That's really interesting. I mean, this is what an interesting article. But because I thought the pressure variation was kind of like implicit to sound propagation in that, I mean, you have compression, your compression of the air in between the waves, kind of like you have differences in pressure.
That's right.
And so when they talk about transverse waves, there would be no pressure variations.
That's right. So
I have to say I haven't fully grasped this.
This is what they say. They designed a type of artificial material called a micropolar metamaterial to implement this idea, which appears like a complex network of resonators. So that it's like they build a medium that is a complex network of resonators. And so the actual sound wave on the small scale is still traveling like a transverse wave. I mean, like a longitudinal wave. God, I always get them mixed up. It's traveling like sound waves, but because of the way it interacts with the resonators, it changes it into, traveling more
transverse
like
wave.
light, transverse. So, this is what I'm saying. I was reading the article and I'm like, okay, this is hard to understand, but basically, what you take the claim, and then they have diagrams in here which still don't make any sense, but it has angular momentum, right? Like they're looking at like
It's spinning? Yeah.
So there's all this weird stuff, but
Spinning?
okay. So basically, what they're saying, I guess the conclusion, it says. They discovered that the air behaves like an elastic material inside the micropolar metamaterial and thus supports transverse sound with both spin and orbital angular momentum. Using this metamaterial, they demonstrated two types of spin-orbit interactions of sound for the first time. One is the momentum space-spin-orbit interaction, which gives rise to negative refraction of the transverse sound, meaning that sound bends in the opposite directions when passing through an interface. Another one is the real space spin-orbit interaction, which generates sound vortices under the excitation of the transverse sound. Okay. Great, guys. Thanks.
Perfectly clear.
It's perfectly clear that this is obviously amazing. The findings demonstrated that airborne sound or sound in fluids can be a transverse wave and carry full vector properties such as spin, angular momentum, the same as light does. It provides new perspectives and functionalities for sound manipulations beyond the conventional scalar degree of freedom. Which, yeah, okay.
But are we still is it implied that it travels through air?
I think the air is in there with this metamaterial that they made. So yeah, it's the air is interacting with the metamaterial and making the sound.
Or they're running, because this diagram shows them. It's like they run this. They propagate the sound wave through the metamaterial, and it comes out the other side.
Oh,
as
spinning.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it looks like on this diagram.
Yeah. Huh. So it's a transducer for sound?
Maybe this metamaterial is transforming the sound wave into some strange. But I think what they're trying to say is that air can propagate sound wave in a transverse way. You just have to modify the waves with this material.
Okay, so let's just close this article out. It's hard to understand. We'll move on to the next impossible to understand article.
I want to dive into that at some point, man. That sounds interesting.
We're just setting the stage here. This is just a precursor, says Dr. Wang, who is a lead author of this study. He says, we anticipate more explorations of the intriguing properties of the transverse sound. In future, by manipulating these extra vector properties, scientists may be able to encode more data into the transverse sound to break the bottleneck of traditional acoustic communication by normal sound waves.
Huh.
Wow.
The interaction of spin with orbital angular momentum enables unprecedented sound manipulations via its angular momentum. The discovery may open an avenue to the development of novel applications in acoustic communications, acoustic sensing, and imaging. So
yeah, okay. Since you have like multiple other variables in your sound wave, you can add lots of data by manipulating those variables. That's really interesting.
Okay, now next one.
Wow.
Phys.org. Strong interactions produce a dance between light and sound. So,
okay.
in this one, it says light and high frequency acoustic sound waves. Oh wait, no, that's a caption. A team of researchers from Imperial College London, the University of Oxford, and the National Physical Laboratory have experimentally achieved a long-standing goal to demonstrate the so-called strong coupling regime between light and high frequency acoustic vibrations. The team's research will have impact for classical and quantum information processing and even testing quantum mechanics at large scales. The details of their research are published today in the prestigious Journal Optica. Central to the team's research are whispering gallery mode resonances, where light bounces many times around the surface of a tiny round glass structure shown in the figure above. Which you can't see. But this phenomenon is named after an effect that was observed in St. Paul's Cathedral in the 19th century, where one could whisper along the wall of the round gallery building and be heard on the other side. It is fascinating that these glass ring resonators can store excessive amounts of light, which can shake the molecules in the material and generate acoustic waves. As the light circulates around the circumference of the glass structure, it interacts with an 11 gigahertz acoustic vibration that causes light to be scattered in the reverse direction. This interaction allows energy to be swapped between the light and the sound at a certain rate. However, both the light and the sound fields will decay due to friction-like processes, preventing the two from dancing in step. The team overcame this challenge by utilizing two such whispering gallery mode resonances and achieved a coupling rate that is larger than these friction-like processes, allowing the signatures of the light-sound dance to be observed. So they're all thrilled about this. And then the end is looking ahead. The team are now preparing the next generation of these experiments that will operate at temperatures close to absolute zero. This will allow highly sensitive quantum mechanical behavior to be explored and utilized for the development of quantum technologies. So, look, it's the reason I picked those two articles. Obviously, is it's just there's a lot here that we don't understand, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on that we don't understand. You can see by the coupling of, or almost like the exchange of energy from the electromagnetic spectrum to the sound or acoustic spectrum or mechanical vibration. And then also the fact that you can manipulate sound with certain materials and get it to act in very different ways than it normally does. These are all things that we're just now exploring. So it's not too far-fetched, the things you were saying in the last episode, like, you know, hey, if maybe the ancient Egyptians or whoever built these artifacts, if vibration or sound or acoustics was their basis, the way they began the development of their technology, then who knows where they went with it and what they might have achieved, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's that.
Yeah, I think I mean, I didn't understand a lot of what was in those articles, but I got what you were trying to show.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah,
like here's
the point that there's more to acoustics.
This can get complicated, and it can be very interesting, and like this stuff we've been speculating about, you know, is possible. So
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? What time we got?
Sure. I don't know.
Should we?
Well, it's
21 minutes.
That depends
Okay.
on what part of the world you're in.
Showtime. Buddy. I'm asking about showtime.
Showtime.
I know.
Showtime is the same everywhere.
I know we're going to have some long segments, so we're going to go ahead and take a break.
Yeah, there we go.
And we'll
Yep.
be back in a minute.
All right.
Get this dang keyboard working. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Snake Bros Institute of Advanced Pyramid Studies, where there are no degrees, only certificates of ignorance, which some people can print for you, but you at least have to sign them yourself. You can't have anybody else sign for you.
That's right.
So anyway, Sebastian, let's get moving on this. What are we? We're gonna
You guys have a bunch of stuff. Gadgets pulled up, media to share.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're going to go to the Serapeum, and we have some pictures, we have some videos, but mostly this is just about, to me anyway, the analysis of the interior of the boxes that we were able to get in and do some toning and kind of measure some of the frequencies and trying to basically see how similar are the interior spaces of these boxes to each other. And so we just kind of do a general analysis of the boxes, and I guess talk about what this might mean.
Yeah. So we get a sense of if they are created equally internally. And
That's right.
we ran around, you and me. We ran around to different boxes and toned in them. It was really fun.
Yeah, and I was. It was interesting to have the discussions with you and Anthony again. I know we've been mentioning Anthony multiple times on the last episode. I'm sure he'll come up in this one multiple times. I did end up contacting him and inviting him on the show for this episode, but he couldn't do it. He's really busy with work, and he still hasn't had a chance to go through his material. So we will get him on in the future. He did agree to come on the show, so we're looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, and we can do something really good then, like if we gather data, like I got tons of data that I kind of need to process to get something useful out of.
Yeah. Yeah, but for now, we'll just basically give you guys a rundown of what we do have. And I would say the first thing is that I can say definitely is that the interior of these boxes are not the same. There's quite a few differences. One I already talked about, and I have a little short video clip of it. Looking inside, there's a one of the back corner at the base is unfinished. I'll show that real quick. Let me share my screen here. Oh wait, share screen.
You have it pulled up. Yeah, is that it?
This is it right here.
Okay.
So this is interesting. I paused the video here, and there's no real reason to play it, but look at this wall.
Yeah, so you're looking inside the box, down at the floor at the bottom right wall,
and so this is
the back.
Yeah, this is the stone. It's just completely not finished, this corner. And I didn't get a chance.
Which box is this?
This is, I think, I can't say exactly, but we went around the long hallway that had the box in the middle of it first, and then when we came out, this was the first box that we came to. So this is one of the first ones.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah,
but you can
this
clearly
is the problem with data collection.
You can clearly see from the shadows on that right wall that it isn't flat.
Yeah. And then
so are those almost? I mean, what are the dimensions of that? Does it look like scoops a little bit?
It did, yeah. See, you can see them as the light moves around it.
But in the beginning, look, I'm wiping the wall and it is polished.
Yeah.
Like this is polished surface here. So it's just not. It looks like it's sort of got a hand finish. So see there, I noticed that unfinished corner.
Yeah, that looks really interesting.
Yeah.
It's like a corner that's filled in.
Right.
But to me, it looked like the exact same. It's the stone material. You can see the flecks of crystal or quartz in it or whatever in the stone. So it's just completely unfinished. But it would be interesting to get back there.
Well, it looks finished, but it isn't. You mean that they didn't?
This is not removed,
right? So they left a triangle of material in that back right corner.
And so we were talking about it'd be interesting
given the
to go
amount
back
of
there and
work that is.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I mean given the amount of work to make a box like that, it feels hard to believe that wouldn't be intentional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so it'd be interesting to observe the edges of it here to see if are there maybe some cut marks or is it just smooth? Did they polish it smooth with the walls? I don't know, but we definitely need to get into this box.
And then
I never got in.
The other thing you wanted to say was the outside corner.
Yeah, the outside corner here to see if it was cut away. Like maybe there was a big flaw in the outside corner, so they cut it away and they needed the thickness.
Yeah, so they leave that material on the inside. But it's just a really interesting observation.
But yeah, that wall, obviously, this is not what the other walls looked like. And I'll show, maybe I'll pull up this other video that I have of another. I lined the camera up with the interior wall of the box that has the inscriptions on the outside. That wall is finished to a high degree of flatness. Like it's nothing like this.
On the inside, you mean?
On the inside,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll find that in a minute, but I can stop share. So that's one point is that these boxes are not, even though they are smoothed off like that one where I rubbed my hand, it was polished on the inside, but obviously it's not the same as the finished product in some of the other boxes. You know what I mean?
No.
And that was a big question for me going there. Like because the idea is like these boxes are machine finished on the interior spaces. And so the question was, well, how precise are they? And do they all match each other? That was the other big question, right? Is the interior space of one box the same as it is in another? Well, right there you can clearly see that the answer to that question is no. They're not.
Yeah, so would that be a finished box, or would that maybe be in progress? like under construction, that box.
Yeah.
It was not rough.
What's your impression of it?
It was polished. The interior surface was polished.
The other thing we should look at is what happens to, say, granite flat plates. You know, what are they called?
Surface plates.
Yeah, like if they're not kept in a protected environment, you know, where you know, because usually they're kept in a climate controlled, whatever, a room, you know. So like maybe those deformities are just a product of a long time of, you know, it's like warping and bending. I don't know.
It could be, but doesn't it look like the tool?
It does.
It looks like that tool.
It does look like scooping. Yeah.
So
I mean,
let me show one more. This is the inside of the box that has the inscriptions on the outside. Now you can see there looks like there are some scoops taken out, but look at this wall on the left here.
Yeah, you see the polish there. Yeah.
And this box has
Maybe
obviously
you
been
have-
cleaned, right?
Yeah.
But watch
Maybe
this.
they have. It seems like polish is always a priority, but not as much to have a perfectly even surface.
But look at how fine and flat that left wall is.
Yeah.
there.
When you line it up right
Yeah.
there.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But just like the outside, where they scoop out, where they make they make a little scoop
Yeah.
where there's a potential for a crack. Maybe they did the same on the inside.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
And what's that little square at the back end? Did you see that? Is that is that a divot in that wall back there?
Right here. Yeah, that's what it
is
looks
that?
like. That's what it looks
It's
like.
a shadow being cast from that. Because who is that? Is that
Dino? I think is
Dino's
holding the light.
Holding the super powerful light. Yeah.
So then I have
this.
This is another. This is looking at the underside of the lid of that same box.
Yeah,
Right.
that is-
I mean, that's very flat. But then, you know, Kino put his straight edge tool up against this surface, and there are variations in it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't look like much. They're not much, you know, but just looking at this video here. But it is noticeable with the precision tool that there are, you know, there's fluctuations in the flatness.
Yeah. So maybe it's precise enough for whatever purpose they served.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I suppose. And I mean, regarding the scoops or the scooped out cavities on the inside, I mean, if there was an acoustic property to the boxes, that wouldn't really kill it. I mean, there's still plenty of surface where sound bounces that has the intended proportions, like the dimensions that would have been aimed for, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be that precise for sound. I mean, it wouldn't even need to be polished.
No.
You know, the roughed out boxes would have, I mean, we were in some tunnels that were literally, you know, just cut out of the bedrock, and they were amazingly resonant and rough. Now, there were some that were, you know, somebody went through there very, very roughly. Like it didn't have square, you know, it didn't have nice angular, like 90-degree angles anywhere, and it was round at the top and jagged on the bottom part, and those weren't resonant. They just kind of got damp.
Yeah.
So you do need the parallel walls, but they don't have to be perfect to get a decent resonance.
Yeah. I mean, if you want a strong resonance in a low frequency, I mean there is some tolerance there. I mean, you'll still achieve those frequencies even if there is a small inconsistency.
Right.
I would assume.
But
yeah.
the more precise it is, the better the sustain. The better it's going to resonate. So it's just a matter of, like, I guess, diminishing returns. Once you get to a certain degree of precision, the amount of time and effort that it would take to get more precise, you're getting less and less of an effect in return for that precision.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
it just,
diminishing returns on your, it's like more effort, costs more, and whatever the price is, time, tools.
Yeah, for less and less of
a return on, increasing the effectiveness of.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it just blows my mind to speculate about what these boxes, what kind of function they filled, because being inside of them and humming inside of them, one clearly feels that, these are over acoustic. Like they seem to be engineered to produce as much reverberation as you can in a small space. But to what end? Have you ever heard about anyone doing any kind of analysis of the surface in there, a chemical analysis? Are there any trace elements on the bottom there? Could they have been used for some kind of, reaction or something like that?
Oh yeah, no, I like that they were filled with some chemicals or something, and they.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Think what if they had these as reaction chambers? Like if you have, how many are those boxes?
24.
There are plenty of them in there. 34.
I think 24, but I think there's empty slots. In alcoves, that don't have boxes.
So
we
why
could
do
pull
you
up
do
a map.
that? I'm like, it seems so far off to be some kind of burial ground, and I'm just trying to picture a use for this. Do you produce something in this? Do you expose them for something, and whatever's on the inside gets transformed, or
like some kind of alchemical process.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or are they just bells resonating to something else?
Yeah. And the other thing to remember, I think, I'm not sure how much of a difference this would make, but each alcove had a false door on either side of the box, right? At least that's what Ben says.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and those were made of the same material as the boxes, and they were inset into the walls. So, like they would be facing inwards towards the box.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much of a difference that would make, but
yeah. So let's talk about the false doors real quick. I want to show these pictures.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I've been thinking a lot about the false doors, actually, and I have a somewhat of a theory about that.
So I have a couple. Okay, so I'm going to show an example of the false door. Let's see.
This is where was this in?
So I think this was in one of the little tombs on Giza.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it.
It's cut out of limestone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I noticed later in some of the temples that this is what that is a carving of, essentially. And in a lot of cases, at the top of this, so for those of you listening, I'm in a room in a temple looking out. And of course, it goes through multiple walls, but the doors are all the same proportions. They're just getting further and further away. And so it gives you this perspective of the doors getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
And then in a lot of cases, at the top of the door, there would be this crown molding that was curved out that went across the top of the door, which is what it looks like in the carvings of the false doors. Here.
Yeah. So the implication there is that it's kind of giving you a forced perspective view of looking through multiple doors. That's the idea. Yeah.
Or these are, these in the carving, maybe these are even columns.
Yep.
Because that's just kind of what it looks like. So I can see why they call it a false door, because in Egypt, if you look through a door, often this is what you see.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like a cheap door, like we didn't have money for a temple. So.
Yeah.
Yes, we couldn't bury this guy all the way in the back of the temple, so we just carved what looks like a temple going away from you in the wall of this tomb.
So, like when I see this, what I've been thinking about is that this particular room, the first time I saw this false door was when in a video that Ben produced about resonance. Actually, it's one of his early videos.
Yeah,
and so during the trip, I kind of like started thinking that, well, my theory is that they have something to do with resonant properties of the room. Like, I've been doing a little bit of reading, and as far as I understand, Egyptian priests did a lot of chanting, and they used vowels for that. I can recite from a very good source material I've recently found. However, when I look at the false doors, what if they are a point, and also taking into, when you told me about the Serapeum now, that the boxes had two so-called false doors on each side. What if they are acoustic triggering points? What if they're focal points? What if you generate something there and that's like going straight into the boxes, or vice versa?
Yes. Yeah, that's what we've talked about before as well, is that, like, do they act as kind of reflectors or parabolic something? I don't know.
Well, the thing what I would like to investigate, and I have no measurements to support this claim, but what if the placement of the false doors coincide with modes in the room, so that if you stand there and you sing, you stand in an ideal position to trigger the room.
Yeah.
With your voice.
Okay, that makes sense. That could be it. Yeah, so it's a clue as to where, basically, to generate that. Yeah. Okay.
Stand here to hum.
Right. Yeah.
It was really interesting. I have a picture I can share real quick that illustrates this.
Okay. Watcher says it's difficult to count based on the map of the Serapeum, but it's roughly between like 39 and 41 alcoves. But there are only 24 boxes. And that also includes one of the boxes that's in the hallway. Or maybe a couple.
Yeah.
There's 2 boxes that are in hallways.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
there's one right at the entrance, and then there's one down one of the hallways.
And then I think one of the boxes also is a really small one that may have been brought in there much later. It's not even.
There's also that closed off area that Ben was trying to get us into that has a huge box jammed back in the corner. We didn't get to see that one.
Yeah,
so that might be counted in the 24 as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But did you say that each of these alcoves featured a false door on the sides of the boxes?
That's what we've heard, but of course,
there is,
because that's really interesting.
There is a broken false door still in one of the closed off areas. Ben has seen it. He's shown us pictures of it. And according to, I guess, Yusuf maybe told him this, that on either side, like in the alcove where the boxes were, there was a false door to either side, left and right, facing the box.
But that's also, you'd have to inspect those. They're made of granite, but you'd have to really check them out to see, is the workmanship the same as the level of the workmanship of the boxes? Because it could have been brought in there later.
Right. They could be later additions. Yeah. They are the same material, according to
they're the
at
black
least
granite.
That one. Yeah.
Granodiorite or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just can't really speculate on the false door thing. I mean, I've heard the idea that that they are resonant, or maybe it's some kind of focusing or something to do with sound waves. I think Yusuf has postulated this. I don't see it that way. I would look at that type of carving as being more of like a diffuser.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It would act more like corbelled ceilings.
Uneven surfaces.
Yeah.
With angles that are not, that varying degrees of angles and different depths is a diffuser.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I do know that they do look like looking out of a door in a temple. That's just what I observed there. What are we looking at here?
So here we're looking at a very quick scan I did of the Temple of Tai in Saqqara. And this is
the Tomb of
just
Tai.
after the Tomb of Tai. So this is the temple on top of the tomb, one could say. And I found this room really interesting because of the 2 false doors here. But also, do you see 3 slits in the wall here?
Yes.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So if you peek inside one of those slits, now my scan here is very rough, so you don't really see. But there are cavities on the back of those holes.
Is that if you spin around and the black object over there, is that what your camera caught back there?
Yeah, exactly. But there were statues in there, and I didn't have time to do it more thoroughly.
So there's another room in there.
Yeah, there were rooms in there. And my first thought, because I had a proclivity to look at this as a as a sound person, I was like, whoa, they have bass traps here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they look like
I would
bass traps.
say that those 3 slits are like a Helmholtz resonator, where actually built to control a part of the bass frequency area in this room.
Wow.
That's just a wild theory, but that was my first impression looking at this room.
Watcher is saying there's also a floating helmet back there in that space.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You can get some fun
But that's
artifacts.
But yeah,
And
that's
here's
interesting.
another room in there where, like Yusuf, our tour guide, he sat down here and asked me to sit there like, yeah, let's hum. And so we achieved a really good resonance in here. I mean, that's not a scientific statement, but it was very fulfilling, and it really resonated well in the room sitting there. So it would be interesting to analyze the placement of niches and false door in relationship to the room modes in these chambers. So this would also, this would also go deeper into the claim that even later dynasties in Egypt, like the Greco-Roman dynasties, had a sonic science. Like they cared about,
or at least they carried on some of the
acoustics.
traditions of doing things in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you're making the point, but I was going to say too is that, like, well, to me, this doesn't necessarily connect to the Serapeum, because it looks like the level of workmanship in those boxes is possibly
that's something totally different.
than any of these limestone cut. But I mean,
of course.
I mean, they did cut the tunnels into the limestone in the Serapeum, and so you can look at that workmanship and say, well,
that's more to illustrate that the claim that the Egyptians had sonic science, like they had the awareness and some form of way to shape rooms to make them sound in a specific way, which I believe.
Yeah.
And that would have been throughout their history.
Yeah. Well, let's see how much time we got left here. I keep forgetting to start the sands of
Yeah,
time.
me too.
Yeah, I think we need to take a break.
Yeah. All right, so
yeah.
maybe when we
That
come
sounds
back,
good.
we'll find.
That's what I was gonna say. We're gonna start listening to some toning videos when
Okay.
we get back, and then Sebastian's gonna show us some of his analysis of this.
All right, great. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Is this second half of the show? Second half of the show. I keep being promised toning videos.
We're going to do that next segment. Don't worry. Time flies when you're in the cube.
That's right.
It always does.
So once again, we're joined by Sebastian, and like we've said multiple times, they have videos to share of them toning in these boxes, and then we're going to do a little bit of exploration of what that means, what the frequencies are. So I'm looking forward to some analysis here. I'm just gonna sit back and watch it unfold.
So this is the first. This is what I'm calling the Dunn box. This is the
blasted
the
box.
box that was blasted into that Chris Dunn got in and did measurements in. So, do you have your frequency analyzer up there, Sebastian?
I do. Let's see here.
All right. Well, here we go.
Yeah, I got it up. Yeah.
So I'm standing in the middle.
Corners.
I headed towards a corner. You can hear it fighting with another frequency.
Yeah.
Whoa. So if I line myself up to the corner,
There's the other one.
wow.
Okay, so that gives you an example of the two different, they're like dissonant notes.
Yeah.
But they're fairly close to each other. And so
Yeah.
you were walking around in the box for those just listening. Kyle was walking around inside this box, and I think we found this with multiple areas. Like when you faced the corners, you could get really powerful.
Yeah,
you get a very powerful response.
You get a powerful one of the notes, and then if you got more in the middle of it, you would be able to get the other one.
Yeah, that's right.
So I would like you to show the modes that you had pulled up there. Can you do that? Because so we were measuring these. I just used a tuner on my phone, and it was, it's kind of hard because it's fluctuating. It has tenths of a hertz. But I basically decided that the Dunn box is around 109 is the lower frequency, and then 120 is the upper frequency.
Yeah. So I suggest we'll switch over to my view, and you can play the video again so we see the spectrum analyzer.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah, sure.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Let's see here. Zoom.
Is he going to hear it if we don't? Oh yeah, because it's being.
Yeah, it's
piped
just
through
the
to him.
frequency analyzer or spectrum analyzer.
Yes. Okay, there we go.
You got it? Tell me when.
There we go. Got it.
All right.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
It's really in these corners.
So that's 119.
So it's like
It's a little higher, 122. It seemed a little higher.
there. It seems like 125 almost,
Really?
somewhere around there.
Your sampling rate off.
Up to the corner.
And there you get 125, and then you get like 110.
Okay. So 15 hertz apart. That's way off from what I got on my tuner. That's way off from what
Yeah.
I got. But let's okay, just for the sake of it, keep that up. Now let me pull
Yeah.
up the let me pull up my tone generator. Where is it? Gotta get out of this.
So inside baseball question is. Okay, yes, it is recording it on his track.
So okay, so this is all right. What frequency is that?
Well, 110?
Yeah. And then this one. Yeah, you're right. That does sound flat from where it was. So let's say 125. How about this? No, that's too high. That's 125.
Is that 125 on yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, the tone generator is set to generate 125 there.
What are you getting?
Like 127.
This
one is a...
So I don't know. Well, there is
I wonder if the
definitely
compression is
compression
doing
over
that,
Zoom.
Yeah,
But that shouldn't change pitch.
I know.
I mean-
you're right.
Well, folks, our instruments obviously need to be calibrated.
Well,
Okay, so look, let's just go with this then. With my tuner, which is calibrated to
Yeah.
itself, right? Assuming it's reading correctly, but maybe the numbers are off to other tuners. I got a pretty consistent, because I got it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes, and the high and low frequencies of each one, they all had the 2 dissonant notes about, a half step apart. They're all about 10 hertz different. So I got 108 and then 117. I got 109 and then 120. So it's like 9 to 11 hertz different between the width and height, or the width and height measurements of the box. I got
So the low one you could never hit was the length, probably?
the length, yeah.
Okay.
114 and 124 is one of them. 111 and 120. And then the last one that I got in had this. I'm going to show you this one real quick. I'll share this. I'll just play it. And we'll see what your frequency reads. Well, no, I need to show this one. Anyway, the last one I got into had the lip. The lid had a lip that would sit down inside the box. Well, that lid was slid off of the box, so it was, in other words, when the lid's not on, the ceiling is higher. Whereas if the lid was in the proper position, it would drop down like 1.5 inches or however thick the lip was, which is going to change your internal measurement from the floor to the ceiling, right? So those frequencies was 113 to 119. So they're only 6 hertz off, but it's if the lid was put on there, the higher frequency would be even higher because it's a smaller space.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe it would have been 4 hertz higher or 3 hertz higher. I don't know.
So we're going to see that one?
I can share that. So I just found it interesting that they're not exactly the same, but their proportions are very close in terms of measuring it with sound frequency. Where is the pictures?
Right there, photos. Isn't that it?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Okay, so that would be this box here. And this one, I think, let me fast forward till I jump in because, that's noisy. So this kind of gives you the idea of what I'm talking about.
The lid is lipped.
See, the whole lid, the lid is sitting up from where it should be.
yeah. So you would have the ceiling of the box would be lower.
This would be sitting down here.
So you need to take that into account if you were to calculate
You can't
the
use
dimensions.
You can't use that high frequency to give you the measurement, basically.
No.
And that high frequency for me, according to my tuner, was around 119, which is not high enough. If the lid was set down in, that frequency would be higher.
Yeah. You would have a shorter distance between the floor and the ceiling of the box, and you would have and thus a higher resonance frequency.
And it was very hard to get that to one of the frequencies. It was really difficult to get in this one.
Which means that.
Let's see.
So what we're hearing now, like you hear that you hum one frequency and then it resonates at a lower frequency.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
That can occur in like tight spaces. That even if you sing a different frequency, if it's close enough, it will kind of trigger the other frequency.
Yeah, and then it just adjusts it. It resonates
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And this box really liked the lower frequency. It didn't want to resonate at the higher one. That was interesting, and I was trying to get that higher one to come out, and I'd try to get the high one. If I was a little bit off, the lower one would start resonating. It's like
I would like to hear. I would like to hear these boxes. Like put a strong speaker there and just like play it loud and see what's going on there.
Yeah,
that would be really.
Well,
interesting.
I think. The other thing, and this is kind of bad. I'm going to play this, but the sound is not the best, and I don't need to play video for this. It's just.
Did you run it through a pedal?
No, I'm just hitting the side of the box, and so I'm hitting it with a hand that's wearing some Nubian bracelets. So there's like some clackiness in here, But listen,
Fancy.
You can hear this note. This is just the actual slab of stone resonating. Listen to this here. So you hear boom there? Boom. Yes. There are all two notes. It's almost like a fifth. There's like a boom, 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 boom. So that's just the slab of stone resonating itself, like the marimba key or whatever.
Play it again.
So it's.
Okay. Look at this here.
Yeah, so that's like. Boom. Huh.
Yeah, I do. I also hear two notes. I think it's important to, like, when you guys are playing these videos with these tones, to play them multiple times so that people can listen to them multiple times. Like, really, you want to, we've all listened to these a bunch, but the listeners haven't. So it is good to, when you got that video going and you hit a particular note and you want people to hear that, you just, back it up and do it several times so they can really absorb it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So my point is, to what you were saying, Sebastian, is you get a big speaker in there. Yeah. And you really crank it up at some of these lower frequencies, and you get, I could imagine hearing the sides of the box start really moving.
Like what I would like to do is, first of all, close all boxes. First of all, you measure all boxes and see if there is a consistency between them. And then you close them up, and then I would like to play, like, one thing is play strong tones throughout the corridors and see, like, do they all start to vibrate? Do they start to, like, resonate the boxes in themselves? If that does nothing, play stuff outside the boxes. Try to trigger them with sound. Maybe you try to trigger them with some kind of mechanical transducer that you put on the boxes to induce a vibration into them and see what happens then. Like, those are the kinds of experiments I would love to do there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is, you saying that, like, put something on the box to make it vibrate and see what happens on the inside. That again makes me think of how they scooped out cracks. It's like they were thinking that this would be happening to the boxes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, are there other reasons to scoop cracks out of the box? Like, I could think of, like, a freeze thaw factor. Like, if it was going to be wet and it was going to get cold and freeze and then thaw, then the ice would break the box if water was able to get into a crack.
Cave,
I know. I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
think of other possibilities, and that's one I thought of. Is like, okay, so if they thought it would be that they would get wet and then it would freeze, that would be a reason to get rid of the cracks, because you don't want them to split.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense down in that tunnel. Really.
So one thing I've been thinking about, like, the tunnels around all these boxes, they're kind of rough.
Yeah.
But I have never heard anything about investigations into how were these corridors, how did they look originally? Were they tiled? If they had
there
hard
were tiles on the
surfaces,
floor.
tiles on the floor, but were the walls and the ceiling rough?
Yeah, as far
Have
as I
they
know,
always been that?
I don't know. And then we don't know if the tiles are original construction either.
I don't think the tiles are original, because the boxes are sitting down against the bedrock, I believe.
Yeah.
And so the tiles
boxes
were put in there, and the tiles actually come up, above the sides of the bottom of the box.
Let me just remember the facts about these boxes. So because this entire structure is carved out of bedrock, right?
Yes.
The Serapeum.
Yeah.
So, and the boxes were brought in there
Yeah.
from the outside, and so the stones in the stone type in the boxes is not
Not anywhere near. No, it's granodiorite.
indigenous.
No.
Yeah. That's just, why do you put that many boxes in alcoves in an underground structure?
And those boxes are
and why
huge.
do you put them all at the same place?
Yeah.
But okay, so I don't.
Yeah.
We're definitely not going to figure out the answers to these questions. But I want you to show the page with the analysis of the modes inside the box. That's really awesome.
Yeah. All right.
And then because I also want you to go over that article that you showed us.
Oh, absolutely.
So we've got the rest of this segment and the next one to do all that.
Excellent. So I'm going to share. So we entered some rough numbers into. Oops. Yeah,
That's
what
a bit
you
loud.
just heard was a tone generated from this acoustic model. We're looking at a website from an Austrian acoustics firm, and they have a really good room resonance calculator there. So you enter the dimensions of the room, and it will display all kinds of information. You'll be able to see where the major modes of the room are, and you even get a visualization of where the rooms are within the
where the
box.
Where the modes are.
Where the modes are in the room.
Yeah, so the length here, the dimensions of the length, width, and height you got from a LiDAR scan of the interior of what we're calling the Dunn box, the Chris Dunn box.
The Dunn box. the blown up box.
blown up
or
box.
Marriott's box, as
Well, it's
some
Dunn's
people
box
call it,
now.
yeah. Dunn's box. Awesome. Dunn's box.
So the go.
So what is the lowest mode there? Is like 76, 78? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
77.95 it says.
That's pretty distorted.
It is.
Yeah.
I'll go up to the next one.
Okay, wait. Go back down. I'm watching the 3D model. So that's showing us that's from left to right side of the box.
Yeah.
And then the next one down is top to bottom.
Yep.
And then the one all the way at the bottom, the 78 is
Front to what?
length.
Yeah, length.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really cool. So what's that from?
Sorry, what did you say?
What? The next one up at 133. 133. What was that showing us? That was from upper rear corner to back to bottom. I can't tell what that's.
Yeah.
Is that like that's like a diagonal across the box from top back corner to front bottom corner? I can't even describe it.
Just keep going up higher, and you can kind of see
because
it does put it. It's you have to think of this as these. They're showing you like these pressure and pressurized and rarefied spaces.
Wow.
And so it gets more complicated as you go up higher. You see more and more and more of these zones, these modes. So the caption says it displays the room in 3D, and you can select a mode above to see its pressure zones.
Right.
Yeah. So the pressure zones is where
it's
that
colored.
particular sound wave accumulates and sounds loudest within this enclosed space.
Yeah, so it's basically showing us three-dimensional cymatics right here, folks,
Yeah.
in that box, which is really cool. This is a great website. I want to be able to access this tool.
What we will be able to do is once Anthony gathers his numbers, he will be able to run those through a calculator like this, and will possibly be able to see all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah.
What we're looking for is some kind of common denominator, or like, are they of similar proportions, or is there a relationship between two of the dimensions in there, like we talked about earlier, like they would have height and width to be fairly similar to produce two very close sounding frequencies.
Well, hold on. I'm sorry, but this bolt area, a column over here in your on the website, it says this so-called bolt area indicates a accumulation of good room ratios. If the red cross lies within this area, you have a good chance of more evenly distributed modes.
Yes.
So this red cross is definitely outside the bolt area, which means that according to modern whatever, they're saying this is not a good accumulation of room ratios.
If you want a studio. So that would be if you want to construct a room where you want to work with sound.
More evenly distributed modes, yeah.
Yeah. Rooms that are easy to work around in that kind of context. So obviously this was not created to be a studio of any kind.
So, oh man. So they weren't doing heavy rock and roll.
They weren't rock boxes.
Dang it.
No. But could have been cool. You know, there are no rules sometimes.
That's right. Well, let's hear a few more of you guys' attempts at getting the frequencies.
Yeah.
I want people to hear, just experience the sound that obviously it's more powerful when you're there, but let's hear a few more of those, and then maybe we can jump into that article and let you guys have something else.
I could possibly play you one of mine.
Yeah.
Let's see here. This is from the Serapeum, and this is from the Dun box that we just talked about. So this is me climbing in and humming, and I will hit the note pretty soon here.
Oh, we're not hearing it.
You got to share it, I think, for us to hear it.
Yeah. Oh, I got to share it?
That's
okay,
right.
Then I will share it. Let's see here.
Share. Make sure you select the share computer sound as well.
Yeah. Share computer sound. Good. Okay. Share computer sound stereo. Okay, so you'll get a sense of how it is within this box here. What you do here, if you listen closely to this box, you'll hear a kid running by outside, and you hear kind of like a humming within the box. So.
Oh yeah. That's definitely the long mode there.
Oh.
You're not humming yet.
No humming yet.
No humming.
Just looking around. Okay. Here's the hum. All right. Sorry about that.
No worries. That was interesting, though.
Yeah, you could hear that boom, boom.
Yeah.
But see, it wouldn't do that without the hole, right? I mean,
No, that's right.
Those sounds would reflect off the outside of that rock.
Something gets into the box and reverberates in there. So it goes to say that you clearly hear that there is a resonance in there.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's almost.
Yeah, I sound like a cow in here, but. There you clearly hear that when I stop singing, it still sings in the chamber.
Right.
Oh, you hit the low in there. Now you got both of them.
Den frekvensen.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, I'm glad to have shared that with the internet.
So what he's doing there is a test sweep. It's intentionally cow-like, trying to find all the modes, right?
Yeah, I wanted to get in there and just like record it and kind of like trigger as many modes as possible to see if I could sit here with you guys afterwards and calculate some dimensions of the box.
Yeah.
But also you have to take into account that you run through the Serapeum and you look, are the guards around, and then you jump into the box.
That's right. Yes, that's kind of a pain, right? Yeah.
So this is what you would want to do. Like you would want a machine that would do this. You could get into the box with a nice loudspeaker and do this.
Yeah, and not a soul around that I have to bribe for 2 hours at least.
Ah, my test tone isn't working. Where is it? Single trigger. And that's the kind of stuff Danley was doing in the last article that you read on the last show. He would do a sine sweep from between specific frequencies, and then you could record. Then you have your microphone that's picking up the response, and you can see, okay, there's a mode, there's a mode, there's a mode.
Yeah. So the test sweep that will pick those up. Or cause those to
cause them to resonate, cause the room to resonate.
Yeah.
And then the recording or the analyzer shows you either visually or however.
Yeah. And then you can go back to that note and hit it and
And you know what's interesting? Both Tom Danley and other people, all these places you're always there on a time constraint.
Yeah. Right.
Running through the Serapeum, but even like I'm going to read you some quotes from an article later on. Like that person also was there in a time constraints. He had a few occasions with a few hours where he could do things. So he could only do what there was time to do.
Right. That's right.
Christopher Dunn talks about the same thing. He had his moment in the Grand Gallery, or not the Grand Gallery, in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, where they were supposed to turn off all the stuff, and he had his recorder, and it's like it doesn't go right.
Yeah, they kept. He was like, "Why aren't they turning off the fans?"
Yeah. And then he finally gets out, and like he's listening to the stuff, and then it's always this way where you had the time, you did what you could do, you thought, but you're thinking about all of this other stuff at the same time. And then later, you're looking at your materials and you're like, I should have done this.
I forgot to do this.
I forgot to do that. And
why did I do that?
Yeah. Why didn't I
do that?
Why didn't I take pictures of the boxes that I was about to get in so that I knew which ones they were?
Yeah, or you could have told me I did get pictures of every box, but not specifically the ones you were getting.
We need a map in your hand so you can circle it. Like, this is number one.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, you just don't even. I didn't even think about that at all.
Oh, we got so many other things to think about. Like you're trying to perceive as much as you can passing through it. You're being like stuffed with impressions and information during 2 weeks, and you're doing the best of it. And like my approach to it was just filming and recording as much as I can in order to be able to process it afterwards.
Yeah. And you're also, like you said, running from the guards and trying to hide. And you're in there toning, but you're also listening. Is somebody coming down the hallway? Like, do I need to get out before I get busted? Stuff like that.
Will I have to pay to get out of this box?
Yeah, do I have to pay to leave this box? Do you have another toning one from a different box?
I do, and I was thinking I should just play all these in a row.
Let's hear it.
Because what's interesting also is just how similar they are.
Yeah.
Yes, you can find differences, but really they are quite minute. So, the camera motion is sometimes crazy because I'm not actually looking at my camera. I'm just holding the phone.
The camera is just operating as a microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's upside down sometimes.
Wow. 2 dissonant notes. Really strong.
Oh,
right
that's
here.
a good one.
Over here. This one is lower.
So I'm moving through the box because depending on the position in the box, you're in one of the pressure zones it's dominated by that other note. So it's hard to get, because these 2 notes are so close together, it's hard to get one of them to resonate if you're in the space where one of the other notes is more dominant, right? So I would move around, and then at some positions I would find that the lower one was easier to capture. Right? So that's kind of what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Doing strange things.
Oh, wow.
That's an octave. So as I move through the room, I can hear the different frequencies. Okay.
Get out.
I'm getting out.
So I'll just point out to people that even as a total audio layman, I don't know anything. What's interesting is how intuitive it is, right? Like what Kyle was doing in there, he knows what he's doing, but intuitively I understood this because you can stand in the box and you can hum any note you want, and immediately the box responds to it, even if it isn't the right note. And then what happens is your ears start picking up, okay, because there's background noise. For example, in that video, you heard all those people talking and people walking around outside. So your ear will pick up, it just responded to that note.
Yeah.
And then you hit that note, and then you'll hear the box respond, and then you're walking around, and then you notice immediately that it responds way stronger if you're standing in this position relative to that position, and that there's multiple notes, so it was interesting how intuitive it is because you've got these stereo audio receivers on your head, and so you can it's fun to move around in the space and hear how different, how it responds differently. Yeah, it totally will tell you where to go and what to do. It's really cool.
Okay, so this next one, I'm having to lay down on the lip of the box because the opening is just not that big, and
oh yeah, you couldn't fit in there.
I kind of had my phone down in there to pick up the mic, and then I was trying to hum into the opening, but of course, in that scenario, I can't move around in the box, and also I'm laying on my chest.
Yeah.
So it's like
You're constricted.
I just climbed over onto this box, so I'm having trouble singing. But it's like the same note.
Did you hear me? Shh, shh. That's me telling the kids to shut up back there. I'm like, shh, shh.
Okay, I'm going to move on because I don't ever get in that box. Here's the
Okay.
next one. Let's see if I jump down in here. Oh, no, I don't.
Oh, you're laying on this one too?
Am I laying on this one? Maybe I am. All right, well, let's see what it sounds like. There's the high one. There we go.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do when I'm laying down.
But you can hear the same.
Well, I guess I understand that you have a very active community around the channel, so I guess you'll be hearing remixes of this soon.
That's right, yeah. Somebody's going to make a techno song out of it.
Let's see. So I'm going to get in. Okay, this one I get into as well. This is good.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one.
Turn the light off because somebody's coming.
Yep.
Yeah,
Very
I did
close
the
to
same thing. Like
interior side.
Listen,
huddle inside.
Everyone.
Yeah.
That was you. You're standing outside.
That's
Yeah.
That was you coming, yeah. So yeah, even, again, I can hear that these notes are very close to each other, these two notes in each of these boxes. Yeah, they basically, to me, they sound the same. I'm sure you guys can tell that they're a little bit off, but to me, they sound identical.
And that one right there, like I could hear the higher note when I would sing the low one. I could hear the higher one trying to come in and interact or interfere. And so I was moving around like, where is that higher? Like I was trying to get myself into a position where I could pick that resonance up really well, but I did never find it in that one, which was weird.
So it's, you start thinking, you hear all these things and you wonder how would this sound under ideal circumstances if you trigger this in an ideal way. Let's say you play these strong resonances all at the same time. What would the result be? How would that sound inside the box? And,
Right. So,
would that have a purpose?
yeah, and I have one more thing to illustrate here, which is last episode when we were talking about harmonics, you mentioned the fact that because these two notes are very close to each other but slightly different, that they produce the third beat, right? What you call a beat, which is it's basically the interference pattern that has a frequency. And so in these boxes, the beat between the height and width frequencies is about roughly 10 hertz, maybe 9 hertz, maybe 11, somewhere in there. So,
You have a tone generator there, right?
I have, and but this is beneath human hearing. So you wouldn't hear it if I played it, but I have this. It's called a needle pulse.
Well, play the two tones first.
Okay.
Right?
So I'll do this. Let's see. This is that's the lower one. I measured 108. Let's do that because 108 is my favorite one. So there's 108, and then 119 or 118. I had even 116 and 117. I had 119. So there's a few different ones, but we'll just do the 10 hertz difference. So it'll be 118. So here's the higher one.
Whoops.
And that's the needle pulse. My bad.
Here we go.
Okay. So I'll add in the lower. And it's not going to work that way. I got to put it over here. Hold on. 118. Okay, here's the upper one and then the lower one.
So that pulsing is the beat you're talking about.
Yeah, it's going.
And that's an interference pattern from the interaction of those two different frequencies.
So it's giving you this because there's like a destructive period and then a constructive period. And so,
so you
go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, what if you added in? What if you
there's a
played all three of them? You do the 108, the 118, and you add in that 78 or whatever the long frequency.
Was it 78 or 68? What was it? Let's say it's 72.
Yeah. You're gonna have to put that one on a different channel too, right?
You're right. Oh man.
We might have to do that after the break, folks.
But just to make the point, and now I've closed it. Let's see. Here's the. So this is the 10 hertz frequency, and since you can't actually hear the sine wave, I'll do the needle pulse, which really gives you a high frequency, but it's just
It's a
showing you.
click.
It's a
Yeah.
click showing you the timing. I'm not like a metronome. So that's the speed of the vibration between those two notes, which, as you pointed out, I mean, we're talking about earth resonances, being like 7 hertz or in that range. Then like you could perhaps, using that beat, you could even get the other 2 frequencies going in the box, right?
Yeah. That's a theory. I mean,
that's a theory.
It's just like there are so many possibilities, and we're just,
Yeah.
We're just podcasters.
Podcasters shooting it.
But it's so much. I mean, we are here. We have been going through this place with open ears and trying to understand something and capture something in like as we run by, and now we're trying to make sense of it, and this, it definitely calls for a good analysis of these places, and especially these boxes, like a thorough acoustical analysis of it.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
It would be amazing. Thorough measurements. Surface measurements for flatness, all of the above. It just needs to be done. The boxes need to be compared to each other. The varying degrees of workmanship or precision, because that's just more data, and that can clear up or eliminate a lot of ideas, right? Like we had so many ideas about these boxes, and people would write in and say, well, what if they were this, or what if they were that? And there's, when you're operating from information that, like, from one box that seems to have very precise angles and very flat surfaces, and you're thinking, wow, all the boxes in here are like that. Well, that's not accurate.
I mean, there could also be. I mean, we're now dedicating ourselves to discussing acoustics, but there could also be. I mean, we have to entertain the possibility that the acoustics are a mere side effect of a very symmetrical box.
Yeah,
that it doesn't have any meaning at all, but it would be really cool if it had a meaning.
That's
right. It would be cool.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it turned out that it didn't. In other words, that, like you said, that this is just a side effect of the precision. What I think is what really just bothers me all the time about these is, why did they need to be so ridiculously precise? You know, was that just like an aesthetic thing? Well, then why is it only on the inside?
I think
who's looking at the inside of the box?
Hollowing out, like scooping out the cracks. I think that one is a very interesting fact. Like, why would you bother to scoop out the cracks? Like, is it to protect? If you know that the box is going to vibrate, well, either it will vibrate from its purpose, or it will vibrate from the manufacturing process. I don't know, but you don't want it to break. You don't want the crack to widen due to whatever the box is being exposed to.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we will take our final break. And
we'll come back and do some of that article he's got.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
All right.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, final segment of the final hour. Not sure if we're going to do a Patreon. We might. We'll see. But we definitely want to get into this article that Sebastian has brought. Another analysis of things in Egypt using sound. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to this.
Yep.
And
my beers and smokes.
Beers and
Oh,
smokes.
beers and smokes. I am so jealous. You know, I only have hand cream here. You know, it's like.
I'm glad I didn't get a full sip in my mouth before that comment. All right.
Anyway, I'm gonna read some parts of an article for you, and I find this article to be deeply interesting, and I recommend everyone to read it when they can. It was sent to me by a common friend of ours. He's called David Stanbury, and he was on the Egypt trip together with us. And he sent me this article, and I read it, and it is mind-blowing, especially following the article that we read last week. Now, this one is, I shouldn't say article, it's more like a research report. It's over 40 pages long, and it has amazing pictures and diagrams. So I'll give you some highlights from it. So right. I'm gonna share my screen. Is that good?
And is it in PDF form? Can we put a link in the show notes? Can you send me a link when the show?
I will try to do so. I got it as an attachment in an email, okay. But I'm sure it's available online. We can look for that.
Okay, cool.
All right, let's see here. So it's called Egyptian Sonics. A preliminary investigation concerning the hypothesis that the ancient Egyptians had developed a sonic science by the 4th dynasty. That would be 2520 BC. And it's written by a gentleman called John Stuart Reid. So, I'm going to start reading why he did this. So he says, the foundations of many sciences were laid by the ancient Egyptians, and some of their discoveries influenced Greek and Roman science. It is well documented that acoustic enhancement of public buildings was common practice in both Greek and Roman cultures. But were their architects inspired by acoustical knowledge obtained from ancient Egypt? This preliminary study takes a first step towards answering this question. Early results have yielded some suggestion of sonic knowledge. So he's looking at Egyptian civilization, and just he wants to find clear evidence that they built stuff with an acoustic intent. So, okay. This first section is really interesting because he makes some really interesting observations about the Great Pyramid and the King's Chamber in relationship to modern day structures. Many of Egypt's pyramids have chambers which are highly resonant, possibly the best examples being Snefru's Red Pyramid at Dashur and Khufu's Great Pyramid at Giza. It is believed that both monuments were constructed in a 47-year period. There's so many numbers here. I need to jump ahead.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Snefru, Khufu's father, chose a 50-foot high, cathedral-like corbelled limestone main chamber, whilst Khufu chose a simple rectangular granite-lined space. Granite has also been used to fashion Khufu's sarcophagus. Whilst there is no evidence that these two pyramids were designed by the same architect, the disparate choices of construction material and style were both successful in creating long reverberation time. The time taken for a sound to decay to 1/1,000,000th of its original intensity. It should say RT60. Because that's the measurement for reverberation time, RT60. So it's going 60 decibels down, which is 1/1,000,000th of the original sound. The results show that the King's Chamber in Khufu's pyramid benefits from an even longer reverberation time than Snefru's main chamber. Snefru's main chamber has a reverberation time of approximately 2.72 seconds, and it has a volume of 350 cubic meters. Khufu's pyramid, which is granite lined, has a reverberation time of 4.47 seconds, and it has a volume of 329 cubic meters, which is, it's not that much less than the other one.
Yeah.
But it's quite a bit more reverberation time, almost 2 seconds more. The main body of data obtained from Snefru's Red Pyramid will be the subject of a future paper. However, from the results set out above, it can be concluded that it is the granite linings of Khufu's King's Chamber which are responsible for the increased reverberation time. Such long reverberation times compare well with those found in large cathedrals and churches, where this feature was and is an important element in the design in order to enhance the organ and choir performance. And he makes a comparison. All Saints Church in Newcastle, which is built out of sandstone, it has a reverberation time of 3.5 seconds and has a volume of 6,000 cubic meters. So it has less reverberation time than the King's Chamber, which has 329 cubic meters.
So 20 times the size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it true that a larger structure would be harder to get the longer reverberation time, or should it be easier? I mean,
well, it all has to do about the surfaces.
My reverb plugins, like
Tell
if I
you
want
that
a
the grand hall.
if I want a long reverb time, I select ancient church, and the preset.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah. Well, he's mentioning a general reverb. He doesn't mention the frequency content of the reverb.
True.
So this is like a sound to go from its initial level to minus 60 decibels. So in a church, I would say that there is a much more uniform reverberation.
Right.
I would assume that. But
oh yeah,
it all has to do with.
I wonder if in the two pyramids chambers is that reverberation time on like one of the resonant notes of the room, one of the modes. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't specify frequency here, so I would assume so. But it's an interesting fact, though, that they are like over what you would say over acoustic. They really, whatever sound you make in there, it's being carried on for many seconds. So I'll continue. If high levels of reverberation were purposely designed into Snefru's and Khufu's main chambers to enhance the ritual chanting of priests and possibly for other reasons to be discussed later, it will be seen that the architects achieve this objective with chamber volumes which are a small fraction of present-day churches and cathedrals. So he's here working under the assumption that this could have been a ceremonial place. It may be relevant that whilst limestone was available locally at both work sites, the granite for Khufu's King's Chamber had to be brought from Aswan, 500 miles south of Giza. Given the great cost and difficulty in its acquisition, it seems likely that the architect considered the material to have some major advantage, which I find is a strong point.
Yeah.
I'll jump ahead. He makes a discussion about the loads of the ceiling and the granite, which I won't go into here because we're going to focus on the acoustic properties. It is one interesting fact that he mentioned is in unventilated areas, as was the case for the King's Chamber, granite can produce levels of radon, a toxic gas, which in sufficient concentrations can induce altered states of consciousness. This factor could have influenced the decision to employ granite, assuming that they desired the effect and had knowledge of it. However, the lack of consistency in the use of granite for subsequent pyramids presents us with an unclear rationale.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, I didn't know that the radon caused the
no
altered state.
No, No, me neither.
Maybe that explains
should-
why when you go in there, you're like, whoa,
Yeah, whoa.
you're just breathing in radon.
Yeah, I actually have radon measurements going on in my apartment now. Like my landlord puts them up everywhere to see that we're not exposed to radon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if the reason for construction of the king's chamber in granite is unclear, so too is the choice of granite for the sarcophagus. Constructing this artifact in granite must have been a long and technically difficult task when alabaster or limestone could have been chosen. Both materials are available locally, easy to work, and in fact, alabaster was chosen for the sarcophagus of the 3rd dynasty pyramid of Sekhmet at Saqqara. The choice of granite for Khufu's sarcophagus is therefore significant, and it is reasonable to conclude that the architect considered the material to have some major advantage, given the degree of difficulty in its acquisition and preparation. So that's
I agree with
that's
that.
how he starts his discussion, and I'm going to jump ahead. He starts by let's see. He goes into Egyptian mythology and Egyptian history, and he quotes many passages that speak about sound and chanting and how sound is mentioned in ancient Egyptian texts in general. And there are some really, really interesting things to read here. I will, however, jump down a little bit. Okay. He brings up a discussion about the pyramid being a model of a womb.
Boom, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Have you heard that before
No.
in your discussions?
That sounds familiar, but I don't know many details about it.
So he writes here we were speaking about the false doors, and he writes, it is well known that false doors, which the ancient Egyptians used as a symbolic device through which the ka or spirit body could pass, were often construction to normal door proportions, as if to accommodate a ka which matched the proportions of the living pharaoh. However, the shafts, which are now believed by many authorities to be conduits to the stars for the pharaoh's ka, are only around 200 millimeters square, well suited to the passage of a fetus or the ka of a fetus, but not that of an adult. Also, if the sarcophagus can be considered as the womb of the sky goddess, it is possible that the shafts were constructed as symbolic fallopian tubes. The ancient Egyptians were almost certainly aware of the existence and main functions of the female reproductive organs. He goes on to quoting Schwaller de Lubit about this as well. So he goes into much more than acoustics here, to say the least. So on to the experiments that he did. The experiments and the rationale. 6 experiments were selected to test the various elements of the hypothesis. King's chamber pink noise test, King's chamber reverberation time test, sarcophagus sine wave response test, cymatic experiment using the sarcophagus as the resonator, and a mode map of the King's chamber and sarcophagus.
What is a pink noise test?
So a pink noise is pretty much, it sounds like when you have the TV on without a channel, or like the
white noise
back in the
targeted, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, pink noise is more equalized to the human hearing to be equal at all frequencies, and it's what you normally use for acoustic measurement. So when you do a pink noise test, since you're playing all the frequencies at the same time, you will, if you measure the resonance within the room, you will see which frequencies bump out
Stand out
from
yeah.
the rest.
Cool.
So that's that's why he does a pink noise test. And then when he mentions a psi wave response test, then it's more like we did before. You play with a tone generator, and you see which frequencies resonate more or less, and you make notes of that. He goes on to detail all the equipment he's using, and that's a wonderful list to look at if you're interested in that kind of thing. I am, for sure. He makes a good point. He says a decision was taken not to use a laptop to serve as the main item of instrumentation in case problems were encountered due to the high levels of humidity known to exist in the pyramid, coupled with the possibility of airborne dust ingress. Instead, my hardy Clark technique combination served as the analyzer. So he brought kind of a standalone piece of gear that wasn't a computer, which he thought this through. Like he was like really going out into the field.
Yeah.
And he also brought like fine quartz sand in order to do the cymatic experiments.
You mean he brought sand to the biggest desert in the world?
Exactly, he did. That's exactly what he did.
Wow.
He writes, I had no assistance with the first 4 experiments, but 2 assistants helped me with the 5th experiments, that is mapping of the nodes and the antinodes in the room. So nodes is where sound gets weaker, and antinodes is where it gets amplified. Okay, so he goes on to detail how he did these different tests, and there is a lot of numbers and very interesting things to read here. He goes into piezoelectric properties of quartz, among other things, and he said like this: the natural resonance and piezoelectric properties of quartz is well known and used in many present-day devices. I postulated that a large mass of quartz particles embedded in granite may have specific acoustic resonance features. If found by experiment to exist, this would tend to support the hypothesis to the extent that some of these features would almost certainly have been known to the ancient Egyptians, since in hollowing out blocks of granite, they would have noticed the ringing sound made when it was struck with their tools. It is well known that other ancient cultures used the ringing sound of metal in the rituals, for example, the bell, and indeed this is still employed today by many religions. I considered it easily possible that the ancient Egyptians could have embraced the resonance of granite in much the same way. So this touches on something we talked about, that it's not only the resonant properties within the enclosed spaces of these structures, it's also when you hit a box that it can actually ring.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would be a reason to get the cracks out of it. Like, you don't want to build with cracks in it.
Yeah.
And also, if there's a lot of quartz in there, when you hit it and you start flexing that quartz, then you're going to get the piezoelectric effect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which could be another way that you move from the sound spectrum to the electromagnetic spectrum.
Yeah.
I mean, quartz is just that perfect transducer, right, for mechanical energy to be converted to the electromagnetic spectrum.
Or vice versa, yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm fascinated by that phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. He brings up so many things in this article that is worth considering, and he's very open-minded to many different possibilities. That's why it's so interesting. I'll go on. I'll continue to abbreviate this magnificent document. I really think everyone should read it. So he goes on to detail the cymatic experiment. This experiment was conceived as a method of seeing the acoustic resonances and eddies occurring within the sarcophagus when excited by a sine wave oscillator. That is a powered speaker arrangement. In so doing, it was hoped that some clue could be gained as to why granite had been chosen. The sarcophagus is badly damaged, and in order to stretch the PVC membrane over its open top, he stretched PVC plastic over the sarcophagus.
That's how he got the resonant pattern on the side. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering because, dude, I've done cymatics experiments, and I had to wear earplugs and the ear muffs. It was so freaking loud. Like, you had to crank it up so loud to get, a pattern to show up.
Oh, really?
Oh my God! So I'm thinking, like, how loud was this noise if he's getting the granite to resonate?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wow. Listen to this. It was first necessary to repair the broken southwest corner of the sarcophagus and to level the top edges, which are largely broken away. This was achieved by means of expanded polystyrene sheets, adhesive tape, and pre-prepared aluminum right angle for repair of the corner. The membrane was then stretched over the sarcophagus and weighted around its perimeter with 43 bags of sand, approximately 1 kilo each, to produce an even torsion across its surface. So he came prepared.
Wow.
I think that's amazing.
He's making a drama out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The speaker used for the experiment had been positioned centrally inside the sarcophagus and connected to the sine wave oscillator. Finally, a fine sprinkling of quartz sand was applied to the entire surface area of the membrane, and the oscillator turned on, commencing at 20 kilohertz and slowly sweeping down the band whilst closely observing the sand grains for movement. We're going to read some of what his results. He made the mode map of the King's Chamber. This experiment was intended to map the nodes and antinodes in the King's Chamber at or near its prime resonant frequency. It will be recalled that an element of the hypothesis suggests that the sarcophagus had been spatially positioned in the chamber by the ancient Egyptians at a location which would cause its mass to become excited when priests vocally intoned the prime resonant frequency of the chamber. So he makes that assumption that it would have been vocally excited, and he also in other parts of the texts he writes that he is particularly interested in the vocal spectrum, like resonant nodes in the vocal spectrum of humans. So that's a big part of his focus. The nodes and antinodes were plotted to see if an acoustic reason for the seemingly illogical location of the sarcophagus was indicated. He goes on to describe how that experiment was done. And on top of this, he makes a parallel about the sound of a baby's heartbeat. So he goes on to say that the resonances within the King's Chamber that are within the vocal range are consistent with the heartbeat of an infant within the womb. And that ties in with what I briefly touched before, that he draws a comparison between the Great Pyramid and a womb.
Yeah. Like it's
and that's
make you. Wow, that's
really interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess
But going back to this mode map,
yeah.
what were the results? Did the results follow later in the article? He's just kind of
just
describing
the
okay,
experiments
gotcha.
here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to go down there and check. So the results. Here we go. Okay. So the results. It will be seen from the pink noise response graph that the 125 band is the area of prime resonance in the chamber. The precise resonant peak lying somewhere between 121 and 129 hertz. You know, this is not too far off from the stuff that we've been looking at.
Yeah.
This is like the Serapeum boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, but he's only interested in what is within human hearing, correct? Because as we were talking before, the prime resonance mode in the King's Chamber is like 16 hertz.
Yeah. He also mentions in the text that he wasn't able to bring a subwoofer like Tom Danley because he did this after Tom Danley, and you can kind of like, well, I wasn't able to bring big speakers like that, so I'd have to like make do with the higher frequencies.
Okay.
Yeah. But he comes from an angle where he's interested in he makes he has a theory about the resonant qualities from a ritual point of view.
Right.
Priests chanting in this space.
Yeah. So you wouldn't need 16 hertz. That's the point.
No, you wouldn't need 16 hertz there. But
unless they were marching or dancing or something to get the bounce, like the footfalls. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, he mentioned, it's interesting because he mentioned there's a rapid absorption of low frequency acoustic energy below resonance of approximately 19 decibels per octave, and a stepped and gradually increasing absorption above resonance until 2.5 kilohertz is reached, where reflection of energy begins to increase. So what he says there is that he's not talking about the peaks, he's talking about how much the sounds, the frequencies around the peaks is actually attenuated. The boxes are, or the walls are highly reflective when it comes to certain frequencies, but at other frequencies they're almost absorptive. That's also a new way of thinking about it.
Steady absorption of high frequency energy up to 16 kilohertz at approximately 8 decibels per octave.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the granite is actually absorbing this energy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not like uniform. It's not uniform in what it bounces off.
Right.
Like,
yeah. 16 kilohertz. That's up there, dude.
That's like listening to an old TV, like a cathode ray tube TV.
Yeah.
You would hear that loud hiss. I get nostalgic by that, like from childhood. You heard the TV was on, but even if the sound wasn't on.
That's right.
Anyway, so this regarding the sarcophagus, the sine wave response graph of the sarcophagus shows several unusual features. Below 77.8, there was a rapid absorption of 14 decibels, and at 89.6 hertz, an absorption of 11 decibels. So why is he talking about absorption? He's more talking about how these frequencies really stick out of the rest, and how frequencies around them are kind of peeled back.
Dampened, yeah.
Yeah. There was no detectable absorption at 117 hertz, indicating this to be a resonant or the prime resonant frequency. So that's also like, do you notice all these numbers? We're like in the neighborhood
in the ballpark.
We're in the ballpark of the frequencies we've been seeing in your videos.
Cool, dude. Wow.
Yeah. And he goes on to say that between 242, 268, and 276 hertz, the sarcophagus emitted a powerful wah 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 beats. The granite continuing to resonate at one of those frequencies when the excitation frequency was moved to one of the other two frequencies. What that means is that they would kind of sing together when you switched between them going up and down. They would still kind of keep each other alive, which is kind of interesting. When this occurred, the 250 hertz and 315 hertz bar graphs on the analyzer pulsated up and down by several decibels as nodes and antinodes formed and dissolved in the acoustic field. If any one of these frequencies was maintained by the oscillator without change for a few seconds, the beats stopped. So that just means that when you have if you move between these frequencies fast enough, it's kind of like maintaining those three notes, and you will have the beats. So theoretically, you wouldn't have to have three sources for these tones. If you generated the tones fast enough, you would be able to kind of have them sounding all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's a sustain. Each one will carry on for a little while after you stop making it, so you can bounce back and forth between them and keep them going.
Yes, exactly. He goes on to say, between 400 hertz and around 7 kilohertz, there were many swings between reflection and absorption, which I assume to be mainly due to the quartz particles acting like a series of tuned circuits. This is interesting. I don't know much about that, but that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so like because the quartz particles in granite are roughly, on average, like close to the same size. Like you can see it in the grain size. That there would be certain frequencies that would excite each individual piece of quartz, and then they would then produce the piezoelectric effect would happen, and then they would produce an electric charge. So it's like a circuit board within the granite of all these.
Oh, that blows my mind.
Because it works both ways. If you let's say you hit a crystal with an electric field, or you shock the crystal, it will vibrate. But it has to be, I guess it has to be the right frequency of electricity, right? It would be an alternating current, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. I don't know if it's alternating or not. It may be DC, but yeah, it'll get either way you do it. It's a transducer. So if you hit it with the right electricity, it will vibrate the crystal, or if you vibrate the crystal, it will produce electricity.
Yeah. Wow. That's something I need to look into, because that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go on about the cymatic experiment. Sorry guys, can you cut that out, because I'm starting to slur. Sorry, I'm a bit tired.
No problem.
It's almost midnight here. The cymatic experiment produced a rich and extremely varied set of pictures, far exceeding in complexity any previously seen during control tests in my laboratory. So he prepared, he made control tests, he built a box the same dimensions as the sarcophagus, and did all the cymatic experience before he even went there.
Wow.
So he writes, control tests were carried out prior to the Egypt research trip in a sarcophagus of identical dimensions, but construction experiments in the future.
Yes.
However, the present results show that the interaction between the acoustic field, the resonance of the quartz particles embedded in the granite, and the inherent resonances of the quartz sand grains is an immensely complex one. Most of the images demonstrate this complexity by exhibiting forms which have an organic rather than geometric structure. However, the images which surprised me most were those which showed a striking resemblance to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and I will give my views on this phenomenon in the discussion section. The frequencies at which the various images were formed are shown in the appendices, but far more pictures emerged than I had filmed to record. Surprisingly, there appears to be no correlation between the resonant peaks recorded during experiment 3 and the frequencies at which the cymatic images occurred. So what he says is like none of the resonances that they triggered in the previous test had any kind of correlation with the cymatic patterns that they found.
Okay, I think I know why though.
Yeah.
And because I've done cymatics experiments with a drum. And
Oh yeah.
now the interior space of the drum has its resonant frequencies, right?
Yeah.
But if you tune the drum, if you change the tension on the material stretched over the drum, the cymatics pattern vanishes. So you can find this resonant frequency, and what you're actually resonating is the head of the drum. And then as you tune it, it changes the pattern.
And since he stretched plastic across the top, that's what he was doing.
Yeah, he was seeing the plastic resonating. Now, some of them may have been modes from inside the box, but I am willing to bet that the tension of that plastic had a lot to do with the patterns that they saw.
Yeah.
Or whatever the
Yeah.
membrane was.
It's interesting though that he it's worth noting that he really went a long way to make sure that the plastic was evenly tensioned over the box with all those little sandbags that we mentioned previously. So,
I've just done it with a drum head that has lugs that you can just tighten.
Oh yeah, like
with the screw.
Yeah.
And so what that showed me when I did that was like, oh, I can actually perfectly tune this drum head. In other words, make the tension perfectly even by looking at the cymatics pattern.
That's
because
amazing.
the cymatics pattern would be like shifted off to one side or something. And so then if I applied the proper tension to the proper lugs, it would move the pattern to the center.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean,
what if the Egyptians really were doing stuff with cymatic patterns? That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I mean it doesn't come off as impossible. If they could make a drum, they could do that.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Yeah.
well, man, let's skip forward to these. Let's look at the photos and stuff because we are
all right.
getting pretty late for you. I can
We
tell.
are
Yeah.
And we are.
It is. You're totally right. It's
We're
getting close
probably
to
o-
midnight here.
We're probably over time. Yeah, we're at 2 hours and 13 minutes in already. So
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, dude, you guys need to read the discussion here
Yeah,
after.
clearly we
because
need to read this article.
Oh my God, you'll be happy you did. Okay, conclusion. Here we go. Okay. 3 pieces of empirical evidence have emerged from the present study. 1. The prime resonant frequency of the chamber and its sarcophagus are very similar, and it is likely were once identical. Number 2. The prime resonant frequency of the chamber and its sarcophagus match that of the predominant heart rate sound. I'll just read that again. The prime resonant frequency of the chamber and its sarcophagus match that of the predominant heart sound of a newborn baby. 3. The sarcophagus is closely aligned with 2 antinodes, which are well beyond the sarcophagus and were therefore propagated without obstruction. If we were to use any other frequency than the 121 hertz, those antinodes would theoretically be in completely different locations. So, In addition to these facts, we should remember that the architect deliberately chose to set out the plan of the chamber in a precise 2-to-1 ratio, which, as we have seen, enhances predominant bass resonances, and he deliberately chose granite with its highly resonant properties. All of these factors could be intriguing coincidences, or we could interpret them as indicators of acoustic design. Such data may yet form a basis of an ultimate proof. So that's good to read. Okay. I'm just going to find the right spot here. Okay, so before I jump to the pictures, so the current modal data may point to the sarcophagus having been deliberately positioned, presumably in order to maximize its acoustic coupling with the chamber. A more detailed modal analysis could ultimately confirm this, although at this stage we should adopt caution in interpreting the current data, which was incomplete due to time restrictions. The cymatics experiment showed how richly resonant the sarcophagus is. Whether the ancient Egyptians used it in a manner similar to that practiced by classical and present-day shaman, we may never know, but the images revealed need careful study and interpretation from the scientific viewpoint. And I'm going to jump down here. We get a lot of graphs, and then we get to the pictures here. And it shows really cool. Mr. Reed with his tone generator and the speaker placed inside the sarcophagus. Got a picture of the Snefrus corbelled ceiling, and then we get to the cymatics. And, well...
57.5 hertz.
Yeah, it's he's right, it's very organic looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look like those... very symmetric patterns.
Yeah, the
you
geometrical, symmetrical patterns that we see in other experiments.
Now, I wonder if that's also because it's interacting with the resonance in the room.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
The more I think about it, I'm like, okay, the drum is round. Like the drum that I used is a round. It's a round drum. It's not square. It doesn't have probably doesn't have as strong of modes. Being round, maybe it does. I don't know, but I was thinking that probably what's going on is that you can find the resonant frequency, but then you can stretch the material where it just deforms the pattern. Yeah. I just think it would be really hard to get that thing equally tensioned across the top of that box to where your pattern is going to be.
Yeah. Well,
symmetrical.
Yeah, I've never done such experiments, but it's he did seem to go to great lengths to achieve that.
Yeah.
But a drum is obviously has a high. Sorry, man, I'm tired.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you've got tension on the material that you've stretched across. And depending on what the material is and how it handles that tension is going to change how it interacts with sound.
Yeah.
So that's why, like when you tune a drum, you can make it a higher pitch or a lower pitch because you're just changing the tension and how it vibrates.
Yeah.
And so
exactly,
they have gotten an equal tension. Even if he got an equal tension all the way across the box, did he tune it so that it had the same frequency as the box
tapping
itself?
on it, going dum,
yeah,
dum. Oh yeah, that's the mode. That's the fundamental of the box,
right? So he does that sine sweep, and he's like, okay, here's the primary frequency. Now you want to stretch that plastic across the top, and then also tighten it down so that it ends up having the same frequency, and then you see what pattern it makes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, still interesting experiments. I want to read the whole thing.
So here he's got he's 108 hertz.
Yeah,
the cymatic eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he gets these cymatic patterns that he claims resembles Egyptian hieroglyphs. That's an interesting claim, I think. Yep.
I wonder if he was aware of like the significance of 108.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yep. So there's the circumpunct, or the circle and the dot in the middle, the sun, Ra. And
Yeah.
that one, the one for water. And what's the other one on the left there?
The Jed pillar.
Oh, okay, he's saying that's the Jed pillar. Okay.
Yeah.
That's another 108 hertz resonant
yeah.
feature.
Wow.
Yeah, this is
That's really cool right
104.
there, those pictures.
that looks more like what you do on your other podcast. The kind of
Yeah, you're talking about
Current
ripples. Yeah.
yeah.
they do look like current ripples.
Yep.
Look at the next one here.
Yeah, it looks like water on there.
Yeah.
See, that's really cool because so in this image we're looking at one end of the box with the thing stretched over the top of it, and you can really see like that the way the pattern looks on the end versus there's like this big sort of spot where nothing is happening. That's like a node.
Yeah,
That's
and
like
then
a
there's the
nodal
sound
line in there.
bouncing back and forth across the middle of the box.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
all those lines are nodes. Those are all
Yeah,
nodal lines,
yeah.
but there's a big fat silent area.
Yeah,
in the
dead
middle.
area
In the middle.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh man, look at that.
That's a cool one right there.
Yeah. So that's the one he was talking about. It made long lines all the way down the box. That was the lowest.
Yeah. But this is his simulation before he
Oh,
went there. So this
okay,
is
that's
done on
simulation.
it's made out of wood.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
And,
Timber
he
sarcophagus
seem-
of identical dimensions. Yeah.
and here comes really interesting part. The nodes of the chamber. And we see here, so we see black and white spots. Black is antinodes and white is nodes. And so antinodes is where you get an amplification of sound, and nodes is an attenuation of sound. So very close to the sarcophagus, you see two black dots, number 11 and 13. And those are, he mentions those in the text as being very, very interesting. And he also writes about that the sarcophagus may have had a different position
Yes.
earlier, and that the position may have changed as recently as sometime after the 60s, because he goes on to show he has also measured all the floor slabs and the relation to the sarcophagus. So when they have put the sarcophagus in its current position, they have aligned it to a floor slab. It seems like.
Yeah, I see that.
It's interesting.
And
Oh, there's a lot of good information in here.
oh yeah, so he goes. So here's like Piazzi Smith's plan
Piazzi
from
Smith, yeah.
Yeah.
from 1865. So he compares with that, and that's really interesting. And so you see here how the coffer is placed on on the lower right. You see the placement of the coffer there,
Yep.
and
That looks close to the same as what he was showing before, right?
Yeah, and that looks like where it was when we were there.
Yeah. It does.
but then he shows from 1965 here, Maragiolio and Rinaldi's plan, and that one is a little
Yeah, it is different.
different.
Slightly,
Yeah.
it's tilted. Yeah, it's not quite put in the middle, not quite lined up properly with the walls.
No. He goes into detail about how there would have been a process of tuning the sarcophagus during the construction of the king's chamber, that they wouldn't really have been able to tune the sarcophagus until they had built the chamber.
Yeah.
They would have to put the roof on and make the final adjustments to the box while it was in there, and that could possibly be a reason why it is not as.
Has some mistakes on the inside.
It has some mistakes, the drill marks and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And, it wouldn't be surprising. Look at what they did with the Serapeum. They put the boxes down in there unfinished and finished them down in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it's like I like the concept of tuning. Like you put a rough piece down there and then you tune it. So maybe that's kind of what it is like. They tune it's like tuning an instrument or tuning a bell or some.
Better leave a couple of them in there just in case you mess the first one up. You can bust it into small pieces and take it out.
Take it out. Yeah.
But,
yeah, exactly.
But if you mess up that one box, then you are screwed.
Wow. Okay, so let's say they put. So it's called the Serapeum for the Serapis bull, right? That would make all of the boxes cowbells.
And with that, folks, we're calling it a day.
And that was the midnight joke from Stockholm, Sweden.
All right. Thanks, man. Thank you, Sebastian. That was great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, man. It was great having you on again.
And,
Yep.
We will probably be doing more in the future, and we're looking to possibly get Anthony on, so we'll hit you up then for sure.
That would be great. And I highly recommend everyone to read this. And I really feel I haven't kind of like scratched the surface of what this report contains, but I highly recommend it.
Okay. I will try to find it and put links in the show notes for everybody to find.
Yeah.
And you guys can all find us at brothersoftheserpent.com. Send us emails, brothersoftheserpent@gmail.com. And thanks to all of you who support the show. Thank you guys so much. We love you guys.
Always have.
Always will.
Good night, Adamu.
Get back to work.